Then we study the first one first. So the first one is here. Whenever I get control of his hip or head, and I have my body fully connected to his body. The second one is this scenario where I'm passing. It comes a lot with a connection from the speed pass, and he's controlling my leg. And a lot of times that you can underhook, they're hugging like this. So I'm gonna explain both scenarios and what I like to do and what we need to pay attention here. I'm gonna start with the half guard one. So like I said, now you're very close to pass the guard, and this probably happened because you're successful with one of the first two distance, and your attacks created some kind of damage to the person's guard. So you're able to get here. Like normally, like the person, they don't accept getting here because this is the position where they're more vulnerable. You're able to apply pressure. You're able to create submission attempts. You're able to pass the guard. You have more control, and is where you can rest the most. Okay. So in this position, the first thing that I try to teach the students, and I learned that when I was probably like purple belt, is that if the more you squeeze in this position, the more you're gonna force the person to have a reaction. So it's important. Everything in jiu-jitsu, it's action reaction, and if you start smashing the person and applying pressure, you're not gonna choke them to the point where they're gonna tap, but you're gonna choke them to the point where they're uncomfortable and they're gonna react and push you. And whenever I get to this distance here, I don't want any kind of reaction. I want the person to stay still while I place myself where I want so I can finish the pass. So by controlling the head, getting the underhook, and applying pressure on his neck or on his face, I will generate like a lot of pressure because I have a good angle, but I will also create this reaction where he's pushing me. So I'll make it harder for me. So my first thought every time I get to this position is to create a lock. So normally I control with my hands, or I place my head under the arm. So if the arm is here, I place my head under like this. So that way I create a lock where it's hard for him to move, it's hard for him to explode and go back to the frame, but he's not uncomfortable to the point where he needs to react right away. Okay, so every time I get here, instead of applying pressure or creating the cross face, I create a lock. So either here or here. Like I like this control better. I feel it's easier for me to rest. A lot of times, like when I have my hands connected, it's kind of hard for me to keep moving. Especially because if the person starts moving, like it's gonna disconnect my elbow from the ground like this. So sometimes I get here just to hold the person down, not applying pressure and squeezing, just controlling. And then eventually, I try to get to this control. In this position, I feel this is the most powerful control I can have. Second detail that I like to use a lot, it's like understanding that my hip has to be higher than my upper body. If I have the tripod, it will be much easier for me to escape my knee. A lot of people, they get here and their knees is stuck on the ground like this. So if my knees is stuck on the ground, it will be hard for me to finish the pass. The way that will be easy for me to pass is that if my head goes down and my hip goes up. So if I start creating this, look how his legs are gonna go down, and now my hip is up. And now with my knee on the outside, I can make a decision between going to mount with my leg locked like this, or sliding my knee out, connecting to a knee slide pass. So again, I start here. I try to get a hold of the upper body strong. locking instead of squeezing. A lot of times I use just my head and arm here. I don't have like any kind of grip. It's just like cupping the shoulder. I like to pulse the other hand so I have a good base. My leg is on the mat on the other side, and now I start lifting my hip. A detail that I use a lot is like placing my knee on top of the hip so I can push his hip down as my hip goes up. So normally it's like this. Like I place my knee on top. So let me turn so you can see. I do this and come here. And then once my knee is out, then I either slide or start mounting. Let's go back here. So now studying like the opponent's reactions and what they're gonna try to do. The first thing the person will try to do is like fight for the underhook with their arm. So if I get to this position, the same time that I want to get my head under and my arm under, he will be trying to get the underhook. We get back to the same technique. If I start squeezing the head and applying pressure, his arm gets deeper, and then he's gonna start getting into my back. So if he has an underhook, he's winning this battle to get the underhook. My arm needs to go close to the hip. So instead of controlling his upper body, I start transferring the pressure to the hip. Because now from here, it will be much easier for me to fight for the underhook. If I try to fight for the underhook from this position, I need to release the pressure too much. So from here, I slide my hip down. I'm controlling the hip. Now I start fighting to get the underhook. So normally, like this is the first reaction that your opponent's gonna have. You get to the control, you have the head, you have the underhook, you place yourself well there, and they see that you are very close to pass the guard. And first reaction is finding the underhook, turning your body sideways so you can start framing again. And by knowing that, it becomes easy for you to recognize when the hand is getting to the underhook and trying to block it and regain the underhook. The second thing that the person will try to do is the use of the hooks on your legs. So like normally the person that tries to lock my leg, they lock it and then like they try to use this kind of hook here. This is a way for me to avoid my progress. So a lot of people are gonna try to use that just to stall and hold me in that position so I release the upper body. So if you're here applying pressure on the upper body or holding the upper body and you have that lock on your leg, it will be hard for you to pass. So keep the lock strong, kinda. So if he keeps the lock strong and tight, and I keep controlling his leg, it's easy for him to start moving my leg side to side now, because my leg is stuck there. So normally what I try to do from here is like I start sliding my hip down, because now my knee is connected to his hip. For me to escape from this position, normally my knee needs to go close to the hip so my feet are far away from him. Okay, so from here, normally I start getting closer to the hip, and now look, my knee goes close to his knee. And now from here, look, it's much easier for me to use the other leg and start escaping. Or either like just try to put the hook again. Okay, he's trying to put the hook, it's easy for me to keep moving my leg. So if it was here before, then I put my foot here and start hiding my foot. And then whenever I start like climbing up again, I don't allow him to get the hook again. And let's start passing. And in this distance, like for me, what's the most important for us to understand that there's not much that the person unbuttoned can do. So everything is going to start with them trying to create a small space, either using an underhook or using a lock on your leg. And if you don't know how to react to that or you move wrong from there, then you're going to lose the position. So if you understand what the person is doing and as soon as they start escaping, you recognize what they're doing and you maintain yourself calm and tight in the position, it's hard for the person to escape. Another thing that I said that is really important, the more you squeeze, the more you create the reaction. So if you're squeezing and applying pressure, you're going to create the reaction of the person pushing you and trying to escape. So normally from that position, I create locks where there's not a lot of pressure, because maybe or most of the time, the person is starting that position. So they're not fighting very hard unless you're putting a lot of pressure on their face or on their neck. So they will allow you to stay there, and that's how it becomes easy for you to finish the pass. They spent most of their energy trying to frame the guard in the far distance or medium distance. Whenever you get there, they're just trying to hold and avoid the pass. Now, going to the other situation, it happens a lot whenever you're going from the far distance to the leg drag, and you're able to finish a good leg drag, and the person catches your leg halfway through. So it happens a lot when you have good mobility and you start doing this and they catch your leg. So if you don't pay attention, let's talk about the danger of this position. What can it become and why it's important for you to understand. Like, this is a position where it's very good for the person on top if you truly understand what's happening and how to move from here. For the person on bottom, this is a position where it can be really bad if you're fighting against someone that understands what they are doing, because your angle is not perfect to attack. But it can be really good if you're fighting against someone that doesn't have an understanding of the position, because you're getting a hold of the position and you have your whole body working against one leg. So it could easily become a strong attack. Okay, so what will be the person on bottom trying to do first? Okay, so let's talk about what they are trying to do, and then I talk about what I need to do. So first, he's going to start creating a frame. So by connecting the arms and connecting the legs, he's going to create a frame where it's hard for me to smash. So if I smash in, I'm bouncing. Now, the second step is to make me off balance and make me pulse my weight on the mat. So if I'm putting weight on him, it's going to make him get really tired. So he start making me off balance. The moment that I start posting my hands on the mat, all my weight is transferring to this side, and now my leg becomes really light, and it's easy for him to start creating either like a leg attack or a sweep. So let's go back there. So understanding what he needs to do. So from here, he needs to build the frame first, and then second, he needs to off balance me to put all my weight on the other side. Now he has his guard back. We're in the position where he could easily attack me. Okay. Now, what I need to do to be strong for this position. Normally, I like to pulse this leg. Why? Because if my knee is on the mat and that knee, the knee that he's controlling is off the mat, that knee is in a higher position than this knee here. So I'm already pushing my weight to this side. So if I try to hold him and he moves, I'll have to pulse my hand on the mat. So what I do, I keep this knee higher than that knee. So now I lift, look. Now this knee is in a higher position. So all my weight is going to that side now. And it's going to make my leg here much heavier. Now I'm also using my hip to push against that leg. Everything to make it